Good day to students of teaching and literature. Today I will discuss theories in teaching of literature in the 21st century. Last time we talked about the models of teaching literature. So those are traditional and modern teaching literature. This time we will talk about postmodern theories in teaching theories or approaches in teaching literature. So I just have these questions that I want you to answer on your own at the back of your mind. In your own observation or experiences, how different are the methods or strategies to teaching of the teachers these days to the teachers in the past? So from traditional teachers to the 21st century type of teachers. So probably we can say that traditionally teachers in the past are focused more on teaching the basic knowledge. They use a lot of discussions and lectures, very little interactions on the part of the students. So in other words, very student centered, very teacher centered. In 21st century teaching, of course, we see emergence of the use of dominant use of technology, especially now with the changes brought about by the pandemic COVID-19. We have shifted from face-to-face classes to online teaching. Teaching nowadays also become more student-centered. So the students are very active learners. So what are the traditional approaches to teaching literature? We have discussed this previously. So interpretation of literature are called historical, moral, and biographical. So we interpret literature not based on the student's understanding, but you really have to look into the historical, moral, and biographical background. Okay. Traditionally, we do not really allow interpretations of the students. Teaching methodology in the past attempts to facilitate students to read about literature rather than learn to read literature. So before it's more of teachers teach us so that we learn about literature, what are the different kinds of literature. They let us read a story and memorize what the story is all about, the plot, the characters, the settings, and all of those stuff. Very traditional. Instead of teaching us how are we going to read this, how do we read poems and novels or short stories. Also, traditionally, very teacher-centered because um, literature was viewed as a species or a body of knowledge. And the usual approaches in teaching literature traditionally are the cultural, linguistic, and the personal growth model. What is 21st century education? Okay, we see a lot of things. Okay, this is your age. This is the age of information, the age of globalization. So when we say globalization, it's like different countries are very interconnected. It's like we live in a global village. When you, if you want, in the past, if you want to communicate to talk about someone in other countries, you really have to go through several days before they can reach your message, let's say a letter. But now it's Facebook and just a minute or seconds, they can already receive your message, right? And this is facilitated with the use of the telecommunication and digital technology. Okay, 21st century is also the age of multiculturalism, and definitely the age of telecommunication and digital technology. It really this shift to online learning, virtual learning really amazes me, and somehow there's a positive side that what this COVID has brought to us. I am now able to attend webinars with speakers from other countries, and when you listen to them online, it feels like they're just there. They're just like they live in your neighbors. So it's becoming a global village. Education today is considered as an important mechanism and effective means to develop creative and effective human resource. So manpower and education is very important. Okay, they say, I believe this is actually like sort of my motto, that teachers are nation builders. We basically build the nation because, as the cliche goes, there is no profession without teachers, right? So 21st century teaching of literature have two folds: student-centered, and there's also the contemporary research-based. Okay, the student-centered is more on learning information. We learn information on processing skills. We also teach inquiry and investigation skills, and students we also consider students needs and interests. So when we talk about how we learn information processing skills, this refers to um, learn information media and technology skills. We should know how to evaluate information that we received. We should be able to should know how to identify fake news from the real ones. So those are the types of processing skills of information. So contemporary research based for teaching literature in the 21st century, this is now where we incorporate the use of digital technology. So nowadays, some teachers teach literature using audiobooks. So we let students listen to an audio at the same time reading the text. Okay, we can also read ebooks. Before it's just the hard copy of books. Now we have the ebooks, PDF or EPUB if you're using Apple. And um, through research, experts were able to identify a new approach, which is the reader response approach. Examples: in reader response approach, this is the teacher uses activities or strategies that promote creative, active, and collaborative learning. Okay, so in the 21st century teaching of literature, the recommended activities includes imagery, so imagery or the sensory images. So this includes sense of sight, taste, smell. Okay, all those five senses. They are called sensory images. So we do role play activities such as mystery. Okay, so when they solve problems, discover something. Maintaining reading journals, so reading researches, and writing response essays. Okay, from reflective, expository, persuasive to response essays. So, what is reader response approach? This is a post-structuralist literary theory. So, reader response approach, or RRA, okay, as readers or the learners are given active role in making meaning of literary texts And when we say making meaning, so it's about interpreting the text. So very constructivist. Okay, we construct meaning based on the experiences of the learners. In reader response approach, readers or learners make text relevant to their life and to their society. So it's making them feel connected with the text. So students should be able to look into how the the literary text relate to their lives, to their culture, or to other social contexts such as post-colonial context or feminist context. So in other words, reader response approach takes on a different level of learning literature. It's not only about learning the culture of the target language or the novel, but it's not only about the students being able to relate to the characters, but you go political, you go historical, and other social issues. Okay. We have these four major interpretative methods: the feminism literary theory, Marxist literary theory, post-colonial, and new historicism. These methods will actually be discussed as well in your literary criticism subject. Okay, so what is feminist literary theory? So before I discuss the feminism literary theory, I would like to go back to emphasize again that reader response approach is called as such. It is called as such reader response because we let students respond. We let the students react in interpreting, in making meaning of literary text. Okay, so these are the first interpretative method, the feminist literary theory, which aims at developing a critical consciousness in the readers about the operation and functioning of oppressive structures of patriarchal ideology or culture found in the text. Okay, this is in feminist literary theory. We let the students look into how gender roles are constructed. For example, The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare. I don't know if you have read that or even watched the movie, but it is actually taught in grade 9. So in The Merchant of Venice, one of the characters there is a female. So it's like they have to undergo through a trial with the judge and a lawyer. But since in the setting of The Merchant of Venice, there seems to be an equal treatment of the of gender among females. So one of the characters have to pretend, a female character has to pretend or disguise as a male to be able to participate in the jury, to be able to participate in the trial of the main character. So from that itself, from that scene, it already discusses, it already presents a patriarchal ideology, right? It's about like an oppressive structures. Okay, there is bias in the gender roles. So in that sense, if we teach The Merchant of Venice to learners, we don't only discuss there the social issues, but we also let the students look into the gender roles as well, the feminist literary theory. So we let students react, like how do they feel if this is how females are treated. What will you do? Okay, so things like that. Marxist literary theory, so it develops critical attitude in the readers and enables them to recognize and question the authority of hegemonic groups. So when we say hegemonic groups, these are the dominant groups, like the white Americans, the white versus the black, you know, how a certain group of people are being discriminated while others are considered to be like a powerful group. Okay. um, Question the authority of hegemonic groups which set manipulative structures for class in a society through literary texts. And we also see that we can also observe that in some of the literary pieces that we read in some countries. Like when you read the book To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, it actually shows how dominant the white group are. The conflict in that story is there is this black American who was accused of molesting or raping a white American, but what really happened is that the black American guy is innocent, but because there's already the hegemonic group of among white Americans, so the judge already uh, decided that the 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 female white American is innocent and concluded that the black American is guilty of rape. Okay, so that's a Marxist literary theory. You let your students look deeper into the social issues, the social class structures of society. So that's Marxist literary theory. Post-colonial theory. So we also discuss here the racial issues through literary texts. Racism. So it's the same with To Kill a Mockingbird, because To Kill a Mockingbird also discusses about racism. Okay, discrimination among race. Okay. Also similar to The Merchant of Venice, because in The Merchant of Venice by William Shakespeare, one of the characters there, I'm sorry, but I cannot really record the specific names of the characters because I teach this when I taught it in when I was a teacher in high school, and I read this when I was in college. Okay, so it's been a long time that I haven't read it or teach it. So one of the characters there is actually a Jew, and during those in the past years, we know how Jews are discriminated, right? And so he was during the trial, there was really a hidden attempt to really uh, put him down because he was a Jew. So they don't really have any intention of paying him because he was a Jew. So that's already racism. It's a racial issue. And so from that point of view, you let your students, say something, interpret it. But the key to reader response approach is that you do not lead students to come up with an interpretation or to construct meaning based on your lead, but you let the students discover it on their own. You let your students put meaning into it, because probably one student say that there is racial discriminations, but other students may say no, because the Jew also has a fault. So it's things like that. Okay, we do not allow, or we don't influence students in making meaning under the reader response approach. And then the last one, the new historicism. It helps readers see silences and gaps in recorded histories and critically investigate the established discourses of history. The example that I can actually give here is in terms of textbooks written more about in the context of in the Philippines. It's like the Marcos versus the Aquino family, and most of the textbook written would really point how bad Marcos is. He was really described as a bad person, a dictator who really contributed nothing good to the country. But that is a point of view among those anti-Marcos and pro-Aquino. But then you go but then on the other side of that, there are a group of people, there are a group of experts who also attest to it that Marcos is a good person, that he really that Marcos has contributed significantly in terms of the economy and the infrastructure of the country. So for that, in that case, you let the reader look into what is missing there, to fill in the gaps, to voice out what is being silenced. Okay, so from here, we can see that reader response approach is really not. It's a kind of it's an approach to teaching literature that you don't take lightly. But the good thing about reader response approach is the students will really be challenged to think critically. The students will have to do a deeper analysis of the literary text. Okay, so that ends my discussion on the 21st century teaching of literature. If you have questions, drop your comments or send a personal message. Thank you.